What's up, everybody? It is almost 1 a.m. here in Seoul, where we're making this recording. This is a little bonus podcast episode. We're going to talk about coronavirus, what's been going on here in Korea, the impacts of esports. As always, guys, if you want to support this podcast, patreon.com/Tasteless Podcast. So, I imagine you're already familiar with the news somewhat on what's going on with coronavirus, but just to summarize really quickly, in China, there are these things called wet markets, and they sell lots of different kinds of animals. A lot of animals people don't normally eat. I would say outside of China, things like snakes or bats. And when you have all these animals in very close proximity, a lot of times the sanitation in these places is not very safe. And it's basically a really good breeding ground for diseases. And we saw SARS come out of a wet market. And with coronavirus, it's the same thing. So this happened in Wuhan, which is a massive city to the west of Shanghai. And it's spread around. I'm sure you guys have seen in the news what the Chinese government had to do to contain this thing was totally crazy. And, because China is an authoritarian government, they can actually really enforce strict stuff. And it seems like now things are slowing down as they've gotten this under control. Now, where Korea factors into this, it gets pretty interesting. So there's a cult in Korea called Shincheonji, and it is a cult where the leader says he's the second coming of Jesus. It's fairly large, actually, when you consider how small some cults can be. But I think it's got a little bit over 100,000 members. And apparently, they had a branch in Wuhan. Now, this cult's known to be really secretive. Apparently, after this outbreak happened, they took the listing of the Wuhan branch off of their website. Anyways, this really secretive cult, people started showing symptoms, but they were not reporting it. And because this cult has churches in every city in Korea, every major city in Korea, the disease has spread all over the place. And the main outbreak was in a city called Daegu, which is about maybe like an hour and a half train ride, maybe 2-hour train ride. I'm not sure. We actually did a GSL finals in Daegu once. Lovely city, but they had a major branch there, and that's where the vast majority of the outbreak has happened. To make the situation even crazier, some of the government officials who were in charge of managing this crisis in Daegu were apparently members of the cult and also were infected. So, anyways, we've got to, I think the number is about 7,300 something here in South Korea. And, it's just been crazy out here. So, I've been in South Korea now for about 12 years, and I've been here when the president was impeached and thrown out of office and eventually put in jail. I've been here when North Korea has fired rockets over Japan, when North Korea has attacked the submarine just on the borders. I think, where was that? I think it was, and there was a shelling of an... Anyways, I've been here through a lot of stuff, and this is by far the most I've ever seen South Korea react to anything. And I think with good reason. First of all, I want to say I think the government's been doing a really good job, and I think things are going to get, as they continue to test people. And by the way, one thing to note is that when you see these numbers as high as they are, one of the good things is it means they're testing a lot of people. So you have confirmed cases. I know in some other countries we're seeing they're not testing that fast. So at least we're getting an idea of where the infections are at. Those people can be quarantined, and hopefully we can get this back to normal. But yeah, like everywhere you go, people have face masks on. I know I've been sharing some of these photos on Instagram, and I see people occasionally say to me, why would you wear a mask? They don't do anything. Just so you understand, when you have an outbreak this big in a city, Seoul is one of the biggest cities in the entire world, and we're all stacked on top of each other here. When there's this many infections, what you want to do is wear the mask so that you don't cough or sneeze on somebody else in case you have the virus. So the idea is if everybody's wearing a mask, then it's going to greatly reduce the spreading. So like in my apartment building, right when we get to the door, there's a hand sanitizer, a little machine that sprays hand sanitizer stuff on my hands before I even touch anything. And everywhere you go to a restaurant, you go to a bar, go to a computer cafe, the hand sanitizer everywhere. We've run out of masks in Korea here for a little while now, but it looks like, I think it's going to be this week, the government's going to start handing out 2 masks per person for every week. I guess this was a system that Taiwanese were using, which is good because I was actually about to run out of masks, so that's good to hear. But yeah, like everywhere, like first of all, like everywhere, restaurants empty. I had to go down to I took the train down to ASL a few days ago. Hardly anybody on the train, considering how packed a lot of times the Seoul train system can be. It's really incredible to watch this all unfold. And now we are we're banned. There's a travel ban from 91 countries we can't fly out of. And so this is where we get to the esports part of this podcast. This virus is going to really badly hit the industry. I'll give you an example. IM, well, actually, you guys already know, IM, they had to cancel the audience. And this was after most of the people had flown in to spectate. A lot of esports are reliant on large gatherings of spectators. I think CSGO is a perfect example of this. I'm really curious to see how that's going to affect this game. Since CSGO doesn't have any kind of GSL-like show that can be run locally and cheaply. So, and beyond even looking at spectators, you have to look at the fact that the vast majority of esports is people from all over the world competing, which means this is going to interfere with pro gamers' lives, their ability to compete in tournaments. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the next few months pan out. Now, if you guys haven't heard already, LCK has been postponed indefinitely until they can get the coronavirus thing, or until this coronavirus thing gets put under control, where the government says we can ease on the restrictions and people shouldn't be so discouraged from going out. But that sucks for all my friends that work in league out here. I mean, that's a lot of work they're just not getting right now. So hopefully things get better there. I think we're going to be okay and not have GSL or ASL canceled. But GSL and ASL, it's much less. It takes much less people to run the event than League, which a League of Legends production just requires a heavier amount of people, and there's more players involved. So I'm certainly hoping we don't get canceled or delayed here at ASL or GSL. I know there was already the initial delay for Super Tournament, but I'm hoping that with the schedule we have, we can just get this started and keep going. And I think a lot of that's going to be dependent on how the next over the next few days, how things pan out. Are they getting more of this? Are they getting more people tested and getting the right places in quarantine? But yeah, this is going to impact casters, pro gamers, event organizers everywhere. I mean, this is just something we've never really dealt with before. You always hear about a virus coming out, and it could spread everywhere, and it could, and it's happened in the past with the Spanish flu, but it's like, wow, okay, here we are. This is actually a thing that's happening in our lives. To be honest with you, I don't think the virus itself is so dangerous as that. Like, look, if you don't want to get infected with it because you could infect somebody else, and especially if you're elderly, you certainly don't want to be passing because of something like this. So the real impact, though, is I think just an economic one everywhere. So yeah, as time passes, I think we're going to have to see how each of the infected areas, how they handle it. Hopefully they can get this under control. But this is really an extraordinary time to be alive and see something like this go down. But look, I'm optimistic. I think we're probably going to get this stuff sorted out pretty quickly here. They'll probably come out with a vaccine. And from what I've read, and obviously I'm not a medical expert in any sense, but from what I've read, the virus doesn't survive that well in hotter conditions. So it looks like as we get closer and closer to the summer, that'll be very helpful as well. But look, man, I'm excited to start casting some StarCraft 2. I have not casted StarCraft 2 in so long. Me and our toasts are kind of losing our minds, man. Hold on, my cat's... Fuzzums, I'm trying to do a podcast here, man. Fuzzums is losing her mind, too. She hasn't seen any StarCraft 2 casting from me. No, but I'm excited for Super Tournament. I'm so sorry for those of you who had bought tickets to come down to Korea to see the tournament live. I know we get a pretty sizable amount of people that come to watch this show, but unfortunately we can't have anybody in yet. As soon as I'm notified that we will be able to have audiences, hold on a sec, my cat's on the scratch post. Dude, can you just wait? Thank you, man. I prefer to cast in front of an audience. So, yeah, I'm really hoping we get this stuff sorted out soon. But yeah, for those of you guys that were wanting to come down, I'm so sorry. We've already been going through ASL. It is a different feel casting in an empty studio. But look, I'm looking forward to things getting back on track. And for those of you guys listening, I think what's always important with stuff like this is to not panic. It is a manageable situation. It doesn't kill very many people. Looks like it's about 2%. And look, just the ways to handle stuff like this is simple. You wash your hands. Just try not to touch your face, which, by the way, I'm now really realizing how much I compulsively touch my face now that I'm trying to force myself to not do it. Yeah, and I think we're all going to get through this. But I just thought I'd throw out this extra podcast for you guys and kind of keep you updated. I know a lot of you people on Twitter are asking me, how this is going, and it's been fucking crazy, man. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you would like to support me and what we do here on this show, the best way to do that is to go to patreon.com/Tasteless Podcast. The money you give there goes to fund the people that help me make this show. And hold on a second. We got to do because I'm doing this alone. Ryan's not here right now. All right. The list of people I need to thank our top Patreon supporters: Seth N., Rohit Sambadi, and Charlie Sheaver. Guys, thank you so much. Yeah, this podcast was produced by State, or will be edited by State. Actually, this is fucking produced by Tasteless. State will be editing this, though, later when he comes by to pick up our laptop. Artwork by Alaris, music by Mark Lentz. And I love you guys. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.